Russian aircraft are bolstering the Assad government's effort to break the rebels in eastern Ghouta. These satellite photos show the result of the air campaign. This is 2 weeks ago, and this is Friday. Buildings battered to rubble, the land cratered and scorched. Pro-Assad forces have allowed a 5-hour pause each day for civilians to flee, but so far there are reportedly no takers. According to Russia, they're held back by the rebels. Some on the ground say they're simply too afraid to leave shelter. So as government forces advance, civilians run and run again. According to this unverified video, Friday in the eastern Ghouta village of Douma, even as civil defense workers try to pull the injured to safety, an airstrike hit nearby.
What we are seeing in eastern Ghouta and elsewhere in Syria are likely war crimes and potentially crimes against humanity.
The UN has announced it will be able to deliver the aid to Douma tomorrow. The convoy should start in a few hours. Relief for people caged by this war. Syria's shifting, brutal battlefield isn't only a humanitarian disaster, it could be an incubator of wider conflict, and that's because it's bringing rivals once separated by distance into direct confrontation. Last month, U.S. warplanes killed dozens, maybe hundreds of Russian contractors in Syria. Casualty figures can't be confirmed, but at the upper range, that would be the deadliest encounter between the two nuclear states since the last Cold War. And then there's Israel and Iran, bitter regional rivals increasingly in each other's gun sights. Derek Stoffel went to Israel's northern border with Syria, where the two sides have already clashed.
Israel's military is dug in. This exercise on the Israeli side of the Golan Heights, where troops and tanks are on high alert. The big concern for the army is the fact that the country's arch-enemy, Iran, is now on Israel's doorstep. That's Syria right behind me. Iran has a major military presence there, and so the threats they've traded with Israel for decades have ratcheted up in the past 2 weeks. In the crosshairs, that's an Iranian drone flying over Israeli airspace. The device was destroyed by Israel's military. Then, inside Syria, the Israelis targeted the Iranian command vehicle controlling the drone. But in the early morning battle, the Israelis lost a fighter jet in a hail of Syrian anti-aircraft fire. The F-16 crashed right here. It was the first time Israel lost a warplane in decades, but more significantly, it was the first direct military engagement between Israel and Iran ever. While tensions have settled since the incident, there are new worries now of a new regional conflict. What some, including this former Israeli national security advisor, are calling the first Northern War.
Israel will have to face two fronts at the same time, one in Syria and one in Lebanon.
Israel already faces a threat along its northern border with Lebanon from the Iran-backed militant group Hezbollah, which has up to 150,000 rockets that could be aimed at Israel.
The Hezbollah today can reach every place in Israel by its rockets and missiles, and what the Iranians warn is that these rockets and missiles will be much more precise.
There was a war between Hezbollah and Israel just over a decade ago. But since then, this Israeli Reserve Corps major warns that Hezbollah has become stronger.
They hold tanks. They have much better capabilities than before. They know how to maneuver big forces. They learned how to occupy a village in Syria. They conducted massive battles there, and this knowledge is being brought to our border.
Israel's prime minister recently toured the north, where he warned that the country's enemies should not test Israel. At the Canada Centre, Israel's largest ice rink just south of the border with Lebanon, these Israelis are taking the warnings of war in stride.
I still feel very safe in my country because I trust that my military, the IDF, that they'll protect me.
Next week, American soldiers will join with Israel's military as the training exercises continue. The focus will be a simulated missile attack as the tensions with Iran continue. Derek Stoffel, CBC News, on the Israeli side of the Golan Heights.